Hello elementary teachers and staff, this is a friendly reminder before we start this video that this content that we are expecting to be shown to students is for grades 3 through 5. If you are a K through 2 teacher, please go back and review quarters 1 and 2 as a great way to highlight some of those content standards throughout the course of your second half of your school year. But without further ado, let's jump into the 6 content areas that we want to discuss for quarters 3 and 4. So for the second half of the year, here are the few things that we would like to make sure that we expose to our 3 through 5 students. This is a friendly reminder that these topics are not expected to be mastered at grades 3 through 5. In fact, the recommended Illinois piece of this would be introduction, not even intermediate in these content areas for grades 3 through 5. So this is just a friendly reminder that we are just exposing students to these ideas and topics. We are not expecting mastery. Now, the first topic of discussion is file types. And what we mean by that is anytime that we're going into a different file type, we want to make sure we expose students to what that file type is called and that there are different file types on our computer. And we don't have to get this deep with our students, but just for us to understand that anytime that our files on our computer or even in Google Drive have a different abbreviation at the end, such as .pptx for PowerPoint, that helps us understand what file type that is and helps the computer recognize how to open that file. Again, we don't have to get that deep with students. We're just exposing them to the fact that, hey, boys and girls, today we're going into Google Docs. That stands for documentation. That's just basically I'm writing on a sheet of paper, right, digitally. Versus Google Slides, that's something different. That's a different file type. Next up on our list is different types of websites. And again, this is just about exposure. We're not expecting students to memorize any of this. But for our purposes, whenever you go to a site that ends in something different other than .com, highlight that for students to help them understand that there's different types of sites. What does .org even mean? What does .gov mean? What does .net mean? Those types of things give students an opportunity to just think for themselves and maybe even do that research later on for themselves later, but to help students understand that not every website is the same in how it's created, how it's designed, and how reliable that site is. The next topic is advanced searches. Now we can do this in a vast number of ways. I believe that the easiest way would just be to hop into students' Google Drive and help them to understand that they can filter what they're searching for by the type, by the people that are attached to that document, or the last time it was modified. That is technically a part of an advanced search and will give students an understanding of what it means to filter out different principles of a document or of who's attached to it to help them find the file that they're looking for. The same thing can be done by going to google.com and helping students to search for things in the advanced search button where they're really highlighting, I want these two specific words together in my search or something like that. Next up is exposing students to what extensions are on their devices. And extensions can be found pretty much in every platform, whether you're in the internet browser or on a certain file type such as Google Docs. But this doesn't necessarily mean that you need students to download those extensions and to use them unless they're doing it something for educational purposes that makes sense in your classroom. But it could just be, for example, if you're making a Pear Deck presentation, helping students to understand that you made that using an extension in Google Slides, and that is the Pear Deck extension. So basically, you're extending that platform to be able to do things that it once couldn't do without that add-on, right? Add-ons and extensions, again, synonymous, helping students understand what those two terms mean is all that we're looking for here. While we're on the Google sort of topics, I want to talk about version history because that is our next topic of discussion. Helping students to understand whenever they're inside of some type of Google file, it is saving automatically for them, but they can also go back into their version history. So, for example, if I press on version history with the little clock, kind of the refresh button with the clock going through it, that's going to show me all the different version history of the file that I'm currently attached to, as well as who made the edits in that document. And at any point in time, I could go back to any version in that history. Again, not expecting students to do that on a daily basis, but just helping them to understand what version history is and where that button lies in some of the Google apps. The last topic of discussion is really more of a question. It's really just talking about how do I know if someone got my info and what do I do if that is the case. And we want to direct this back to one of the things that we talked about in the quarter 1 video, and it's just making sure that students know anytime that they feel uncomfortable about something or something doesn't seem quite right, to make sure that they reach out to an adult, whether that's their teacher or their parent or whomever it is at home with them or at school, so that way we can get to the bottom of it and make sure that they are safe and protected. So that is the bottom line. Even if it's talking about how do I know if someone got my info, there really isn't necessarily something that we want for them to navigate or find in grades 3 through 5. It's just more about if something seems fishy, make sure that we reach out and talk to somebody about it so that way we can get to the bottom of it and help them out. Again, these 6 topics are meant to be stretched out through grades 3 through 5 through quarters 3 and 4. So for the second half of the school year, highlighting these along with the other topics that we've reviewed in quarters 1 and 2. With all these components, students will be set up for success in knowing what the ins and outs of their devices are, as well as how to best use their devices through middle and high school years and beyond. Thanks so much for watching, and if you have any questions, as always, please feel free to reach out anytime.